The quiet of midnight hangs over the town. Your neighbor's house, or perhaps it's your house, asleep. Asleep save for one member of the family. Just 1 week ago, Mary Bronson discovered that she has what may be a symptom of cancer.
Cancer. Cancer. It can start, they say, almost unnoticeably. And then it grows and grows. A horror that never stops. Is it contagious? Can my family catch it? My friends? What if it's inherited? Will my children have it too? What will happen to me? Will I die? Well, that's foolishness. I probably don't have cancer at all. What if I do? People don't tell you about cancer. They don't talk about it. Why not? Is a cancer victim an outcast? Is there no hope? No hope?
Even in the daytime, there is no rest, no peace. Nerves will not stay quiet. They shout, they clamor. Cancer, cancer.
Cancer, cancer, cancer.
It's a devil's tune that no one else can hear, no one else can understand. Walk away from it. Leave it behind as you go about your daily work. Do your shopping and forget it.
Cancer, cancer, cancer. I can't forget it. I can't. I ought to do something about it. I know I should. But where can I go? Who can help me?
Look, here. The American Cancer Society maintains this office and many others to help people just like you, Mrs. Bronson. Go on in. Don't be frightened. Don't go away. You needn't feel conspicuous. There are others worried about cancer too, thousands of them. For instance, Frank Turner. He's greatly worried that he has cancer. Cancer can strike anyone. It can strike George Reeves, who owns the local hardware store. Or Harriet Glennon, who's always so healthy. Or Roy Mead, a clock expert, never sick a day of his life. Even Ruth Condon, the picture of health. Babies aren't immune. In fact, no one is. Cancer strikes blindly, anywhere. Banker, bricklayer, postman, mechanic. 1 out of every 8. In 1 year in the United States, 175,000 people die of cancer. More Americans than were killed in the war from Pearl Harbor to peace in Tokyo Bay. Unless we gain new knowledge and vastly spread what we now know, 1 out of every 8 Americans now alive will die of cancer. 1 out of 8. And is this one of them, our worried housewife? Does Mary Bronson have cancer? Well, she knows she might have, and she is an intelligent woman. So at last she decides to return to the office of the Field Army of the American Cancer Society. Inside is Helen Woolsey, a worker in the Field Army. She seems nice, doesn't she, Mrs. Bronson? Certainly not frightening at all. And it's a pleasant office here. Quiet, reassuring. Miss Woolsey closes the door to ensure privacy for a confidential talk. Tell her all about it, Mrs. Bronson. Tell her how frightened you've been. You see, she knows exactly what you mean. She understands. And she has the answers, too. Cancer is not contagious. Cancer is not inherited, not a disgrace. And cancer can be cured if it's caught early enough. Mrs. Bronson, only 2 out of 10 with a lump in the breast have cancer. And even in those cases, 75% can be cured if treated in time. So you see, you were wise. You were very wise not to waste more time. It's vitally necessary to see your doctor as soon as you notice any of these 7 danger signals. Any sore that does not heal, particularly about the tongue, mouth, or lips. A painless lump or thickening, especially in the breast, lip, or tongue. Irregular bleeding or discharge from the nipple or any natural body opening. Progressive change in the color or size of a wart, mole, or birthmark. Persistent indigestion. Persistent hoarseness, unexplained cough, or difficulty in swallowing. Any change in the normal bowel habits. See your doctor at once about any of these warning signals. Don't wait and worry. Delay may be fatal. Cancer is often curable if treated in time. Miss Woolsey telephones to make an appointment with Mrs. Bronson's family physician, Dr. Addison. An examination is an absolute necessity. The examination is over and Mrs. Bronson is feeling much better because now something is being done about her trouble. She's no longer alone. Science is fighting by her side. Dr. Addison explains the nature of cancer. It's like a gangster in the body, an outlaw cell that won't stop growing. Say it starts in the breast. It grows there and then expands through the lymphatic and circulatory systems to a nearby vulnerable spot in the armpit. Then it moves up to a gland in the neck, and then it really starts to spread throughout the body. The only way to stop it is to remove it before it's so scattered it's impossible to remove. So the one thing to do is to catch it early, while it's still just in one little spot. There is still the most important question of all to be answered. Mrs. Bronson wants to know how to tell whether she has cancer. There's only one way. You'll need a minor operation called a biopsy. It isn't serious. The surgeon will simply remove that small lump you've noticed, and a pathologist will examine it to see whether it's harmless or cancerous. The chances are by far that it will not be cancerous. But suppose it is. How is cancer treated? Dr. Addison decides he can explain it best with pictures. The most common method of treatment is surgery, actually cutting out every last trace of the cancerous tissue. A second method is X-ray. The X-ray, carefully applied, destroys cancerous cells, but not healthy tissues. A third method consists in the use of radium. A small amount of radium is applied directly to the affected area. Today, the American Cancer Society has launched man's first great mass attack upon cancer by organized research. In laboratories of outstanding medical institutions, intensive study goes forward. The National Academy of Sciences, through its National Research Council, has selected 90 eminent specialists to guide and coordinate the work. A work so vast that it is far more costly than all former efforts combined. A work the American people must continuously support by its contributions. Now there's just one thing more, Mrs. Bronson. The doctor must have your permission to perform a complete operation for cancer if he finds that cancer is present. Mrs. Bronson agrees wholeheartedly. If there's any there, let's get rid of it fast. By now, Mrs. Bronson is a minor authority on the subject herself. The biopsy itself is a fairly minor operation, but the excitement comes later. When the tumor has been removed, the operation must be stopped in mid-flight, halted until the pathologist can bring in a verdict. The tumor is harmless or cancerous. The lump has been removed. The pathologist looks at it briefly. It must be examined in the laboratory immediately. In order to make the necessary microscopic examination, a very small piece of the tissue is removed, and this tiny section must then be frozen. This is done simply to harden it so that it may be sliced to a very thin wafer. Special equipment quickly freezes the tissue. Meanwhile, in surgery, the operating team is waiting. The surgeon's hands in the air to keep them sterile. Nothing moves but the clock. Waiting, waiting. The wafer is put on a slide, and the slide is then heated to speed up the process. Now the slide must be dyed to identify exactly the cells the pathologist needs to see. In a moment, he'll have the answer, and surgery will know whether a minor biopsy is to be finished or a vitally important cancer operation is to be performed. Which will it be? And here is the answer. The tissue is healthy. Mary Bronson does not have cancer. The ugly, nagging fear that plagued her has been banished in the only way it can be banished, by a complete scientific examination. Her own physician, our friend Dr. Addison, is on hand to give her the good news the moment she's awake. You can leave the hospital in a couple of days, Mary, and you can start smiling again. Filled with relief and gratitude, Mrs. Bronson returns to the office of the American Cancer Society. As others had helped her, she is determined to help others. She volunteers for any type of work in the fight against cancer. Some of the work is routine, such as preparing surgical dressings. But some of it is interesting and exciting, such as radio talks, helping to educate the public in the facts about cancer. Some is very rewarding, such as lightening the hours of lonely children in terminal care. At the Blood Donor Center, she learns a lively and unusual task, how to type blood. And there are many helpful and gratifying duties as a nurse's aide. It includes fund solicitation, and let each who passes her consider, tomorrow those dimes and dollars may help save me from cancer. But her greatest thrill comes in the knowledge that she is helping to save a life when she brings in a neighbor who has a cancer symptom but is afraid to find out for sure. Anytime cancer is suspected, Delay may be fatal. The only sure way to triumph over cancer is to catch it early. Time is life.